महिला नीकु जोहारू महिला नीकु सरिलेरू महिला नीवु महिलोना तिरगाडे देवतवु चरितनु मरुवनि वीर नारी नुव्वु गगनमु गिरिसिन ज्ञान भावुटवु जगतिन गेलुवनि రంగమంటూ నీకేది లేదు వనిత పలుకులు నడకలు నేర్పే పంతులు బ్రతుకను రథముకు సారథేగను మగువని మనకు కరుండకుంటే సృష్టికేది భవిత ఏటా జరిపి వేడుకలు ఆటా మనకు చెబుతోంది అంతర్జాతీయ మహిళా దినోత్సవ నమస్సులు.
Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning to all of you. Namaskar. And I take great pride in welcoming you all to the American Telugu Association Women's Day celebration. America Telugu Sangham vari ఆహ్వానాన్ని మన్నించి ఇవాల్టి కార్యక్రమానికి విచ్చేసిన మీ అందరికీ కూడా సాదర స్వాగతం పలుకుతున్నాం. We have two very important occasions today. Today marks the beginning of the Telugu calendar, which is Ugadi. Ugadi is a very auspicious day to start with new resolutions, build new hopes and dreams for each one of us participating in this event today. The American Telugu Association has been a pioneer in bringing communities together and fostering a harmony in all the Telugu people worldwide. And more so in the last 20 to 30 years, they have been focusing on the development of women. ATA has been a pioneer in bringing women leaders to the forefront and encouraging them, supporting them, and ensuring that they get their due place in the society. ఇవాల్టి కార్యక్రమాన్ని మొదలు పెట్టబోతున్నాం. Since it is auspicious for all of us, let us wish each other a happy Ugadi and begin this evening's proceedings. For many of us participating here, it is morning, so let us welcome the day and the evening with all our hearts. And with no further delay, I'd like to welcome Samira Sripada Garu, who's going to render a prayer for all of us before we start this auspicious evening. Over to Samira.
అందరికీ నమస్కారం. నా పేరు సమీర శ్రీపాద. నేను ఈరోజు పాడబోయే పాట ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని ఆనంద భైరవి రాగం. ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని ఆనందకారిణి శుభదాయని ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని ఆనందకారిణి శుభదాయని ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని భవాని వాణి శ్రీ మహాలక్ష్మి అనంత రూపిణి ఆనందకారిణి భవాని వాణి శ్రీ మహాలక్ష్మి అనంత రూపిణి ఆనందకారిణి శంకరి శాంభవి కరుణా సాగరి శంకరి శాంభవి కరుణా సాగరి అఖిలాండేశ్వరి శ్రీ పరమేశ్వరి శంకరి శాంభవి కరుణా సాగరి అఖిలాండేశ్వరి శ్రీ పరమేశ్వరి సదామప నేనే సాని పమ గమగస ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని ఆనందకారిణి శుభదాయని ఓంకార రూపిణి కాత్యాయని Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Samira Sripada Garu. Samira Sripada has been teaching Carnatic music to children and adults in the USA for the past 10 years. And she's founded Sripada Sangeeta Alayam, a school of Carnatic music in Texas. And we are really delighted to have this beginning with her auspicious singing. We are actually very, very honored to have the presence of our chief guest, Ms. Smriti Irani ji, who is very well known worldwide, and she's emerged as one of the most powerful women in the country in the last more than a decade. In her 25 years of journey, I'm sure she has seen wonderful experiences, and she is going to share with us her journey in a little while. Welcome, Smriti Raniji. And I also would like to extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished guests, panelists, who are all very accomplished in their own right in various journeys of life. And before we introduce all of them, I would like to welcome Shri Jayant Challagaru, who is the president of the American Telugu Association. Prior to becoming the president of ATA, he was on the board and as a trustee and the business committee chair and advisor. He was co-founder and CEO of ACE Info Solutions, a government contracting IT company with almost 1,000 people in his team. He currently advises and mentors small businesses. He is actively involved in multiple nonprofit organizations. As part of a nonprofit organization he co-founded, he provides free training to rural Americans. Over to Jayant Challagaru to give the welcome address for today.
Thank you, Andy. Andarki namaskaralu. I have a warm thank you, Swapna Garu, for the kind introduction. Andarki happy Ugadi celebrations and wish you all happy International Women's Month. Especially thank you to the chief guest and all the guests that have come here. First, I would like to thank all organizers, speakers, and panelists for putting together this virtual event in a short time. Just 2 minutes, I want to introduce ATA. The American Telugu Association, founded in 1990, is the second oldest national Telugu organization in the US. It has been serving the Telugu community in the United States for the past 35 years. The main purpose of the organization is to assist and promote literary, cultural, educational, socio-economic, health, and community activities of the people of Telugu origin and exchange of students and scientists between the United States, India, and Canada. The Telugu community is the fastest growing community in the United States. Right now, the Telugu population in the US is estimated to be at 1.5 million people. Close to 25% of the Indian Americans in the US are of Telugu origin. Telugu folks represent a cross-section of the community: entrepreneurs, business folks, technical experts, doctors, etc. The people are running, Telugu folks are running companies such as Microsoft, Adobe, IBM, just to mention a few. Every year, about 60,000 students and 10,000 high-skilled immigrants of Telugu origin are coming into this country. ATA, with a membership of 20,000 people, has a strong organization to serve the 1.5 million Telugu Americans in the US. It has a 6-member executive committee, a 31-member board of trustees, and nearly 400 office bearers, including standing committee chairs, members, and regional coordinators, directors, etc. And women represent a large portion of this organization. Women's Day celebrates the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women, while also advocating for gender equality and raising awareness of the ongoing challenges. The speakers and panel members for this virtual Women's Day are planned to achieve this goal. ATA is the pioneer in celebrating International Women's Day in the Telugu community in the US. We've been celebrating Women's Day for the last 16 years across the country in over 15 cities. The Women's Day programs include competitions, sports events, health seminars, business seminars, cultural and literary events. We honored and felicitated women who made significant contributions to the community, not only in the US, but we are also conducting events in India to encourage women empowerment. We visited multiple women colleges and rural areas in India to achieve this. Just to, we have planned a lot of events for the next couple of years. I just want to highlight quickly, we are planning some of the programs we are planning are youth conference and events to encourage second generation youth participation in Ata and Indian and Telugu cultures, Mother's Day events to honor motherhood and their sacrifices, business seminars to encourage entrepreneurship in all areas, not just IT. This will encourage networking and funding for new businesses, sports tournaments across the country to highlight health and fitness, health camps to provide free checkups and tests, and health seminars to bring awareness in common problems and diseases. Of course, the Seva activities form the foundation to help the community, especially students coming from India, visitors, women, and the elderly. And if you are not a member of the organization, please visit our website at artaworld.org to become one and participate in all our future programs. Finally, ARTA will collaborate and partner with other nonprofit organizations to help the community. If any of you have suggestions or ideas, please don't hesitate to contact us. Thank you and look forward to the presentation.
Thank you, Jain Chalaji. This event is definitely a testimonial to your commitment to women empowerment and bringing inclusive conferences and seminars like this. And with no further delay, we're all waiting to meet in person Smriti Irani ji, Cabinet Minister for the Government of India, a young global leader, and she has made a true impact in her various roles as a Minister for Women and Child Development, as Minority Affairs Minister, Textiles Minister, Education Minister, and various other roles. Smriti Irani ji continues to inspire us as a distinguished leader with over 25 years of experience in governance and policy making. She has held pivotal cabinet positions, leading transformative initiatives across the ministry that she has pioneered and she has led. And she has also been instrumental in digital transformation, and her presence today gives us a great hope that women empowerment in its true essence is actually not far away, but it's part of our lives today, and we can actually move towards better steps and అందరికీ అనుకూలంగా ఉండే విధంగా సాధికారత అనే అంశానికి నిలువ అర్థం స్మృతి ఇరానీ గారు. వారికి సాదర స్వాగతం పలుకుతున్నాం. I request our chief guest Smriti Irani ji to please address us and share her experience throughout this 25-year journey. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much. At the onset, let me give my gratitude to the American Telugu Association for being kind enough to invite me on this day where you celebrate the new year. Ugadi greetings to the 1.5 million Telugu people in the United States of America and those across the world. I'm particularly delighted that I'm called to speak on the Women's Day issue on a day that brings forth new promise, new hope, with old belief systems that have culturally helped us being valued across the globe and which help us build a better and more inclusive future. I normally am not very well positioned to speak about my journey in solitude, and I'm very habituated to a conversation. But instead of just talking about me, let's contextualize what Women's Day is actually all about. In our country, and possibly we are the only nation on the face of this planet, where our war for independence against colonial forces were fought by both men and women. We are possibly the only nation where we saw a mother, a young widow, tie her child to the back, strapped across her body, rode a horse, raised her sword against the British Army, with an army of Indian men following her. That is Lakshmi Bai, which was featured in your opening title montage. We are the only nation on the planet which civilizationally has the concept of Ardhanarishwar, where Shiv and Shakti come together, and their blessed union is what culturally the fulcrum of our thought process and our beliefs. We are the only country which can proudly say that while man went to the moon, the Mars vision was heralded by women of India. We today proudly say that I can't speak for other democracies across the world. The Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces in India is a lady president, Draupadi Murmu. That today we have 1.5 million Indian women who serve in panchayats elected through local elections in governance bodies, that we have the highest number of women now serving in Indian parliament. We are one of the very few democracies and the largest democracy in the world that has passed 33% reservation for women in parliament, and that too when the new parliament building was being inaugurated. What better an inauguration than inviting the force of Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga to Parliament, that being the 33% reservation bill that was passed. India has also evidenced what it means to invest in women. If you all remember, in the year 2014, Prime Minister Modi wanted to ensure that no Indian is unbanked, that every Indian has an association and an engagement with financial institutions across the country. And that is why, in less than 3 years, over 500 million Indians under Jan Dhan Yojana could open their bank account. Proudly, I say that 250 million of those were Indian women. And 66% of these bank accounts that were opened were in rural and semi urban India. What transpired was nothing less than a revolution. We all know that the government of India formulated something called a Mudra loan. Mudra was not a gendered instrument. However, 300 million loans were given to women who wanted to start their own enterprise but had no money or no asset that they could leverage as collateral. Today, women on this panel will be extremely proud to hear that women who took loans for SMEs, for basic small businesses, in fact, serviced their credit so much and so well that NPA in women held accounts is less than 2%, whereas NPAs by men has gone over 3.5%. That we've led very strongly, even academically. With the minute Prime Minister Modi ensured that academic credits are transferable across the country, we saw a surge in women who do PhDs, and that number went up by 99%, which means that while women always had an inclination towards academia, they never had the credit facility as they grew in their professions or in their lives domestically to facilitate their academic pursuits. I'm proudly, as an Indian today, happy to tell you that in the G20, when India had the presidency, we are the only country in the history of the G20 that prioritized women, their leadership potential, and their financial prowess. And that is why, under India's leadership and under India's presidency, for the first time in the history of G20, as the former gender minister of India, I can proudly say that the leadership declaration had a mention for the first time of a women's working group so that issues of women and young girls could be brought to that policy table and solutions could be formulated. Today, we have close to 1.9 crores. That means close to 19 million women who serve in Indian bureaucracy across the country. Today, we have not only women who are leading in the financial and the banking sector, who are not only leading in enterprise, who are not only leading in space technology, who are not only healthcare leaders, but I think the Telugu component of our civilization can proudly say that even innovators and those who push the envelope in terms of frugal innovation, many of them come from India and many of them are women. Ironically, it is said that the Women's Day has a very interesting history. It was first proposed to be celebrated by no other than Lenin, who in 1922 said, "Why don't we celebrate women who took part in the 1917 Russian Revolution?" Ironically so, then Europe broke out into activism, and women across Europe then agitated so that they could get an equal right to vote as men in their countries. And somebody in the UN in the 1970s who said, "Why don't we dedicate one day to women?" And when everybody got together, especially the men, they thought, what is the day that Sunday falls on? That Sunday was the 8th of March, and that is how Women's Day came about. Now, for us Indian women, we can proudly say that while many countries, and especially the country that I'm addressing right now, may never have a woman who contributed to writing the Constitution, We in India can proudly say that 15 women helped write our constitution. And when the constitution was brought to life, men and women in independent democratic India had equal rights with regards to voting. Today, much has happened in the legislative journey of India. We've had laws which have been brought to the fore, and change has been affected so that women's rights can be protected. But we all know as men and women that no country on the planet has reached the utopian stage yet where we are bereft of crime against women. That is a process that we as citizens globally so are working towards, and I'm hopeful that India can give one of those solutions. It is ironical even yet when India speaks of legislation, we see that legislation for sexual harassment at workplace came in the year 2013, and I was in opposition there, and I spoke about it and spoke of the irony that civilizationally, if you look at Arthashastra, that had punishment for harassing women at work, and we legislated thousands of years later. So much can be said about women and civilizationally, how much women in our country, in terms of rights, in terms of endeavors, have enriched our history. Much can be celebrated today as to how many women now are at the forefront of how many small revolutions in technology, healthcare, and administrative services. I can only hope, as an Indian woman, that we are making a level playing field for girls to follow suit. And also, we are that indicative hope to the rest of the world that don't look at only women's emancipation. As Prime Minister Modi says, it is women led development that will ensure global equity. So, from the land of culture, from the land of Ardhanarishwar, from the land of Lakshmi Bai, happy Women's Month.
Priti ma'am, thank you so much for those wonderful reminders of the progress we've been making, the empowerment that we've already achieved. With your permission, ma'am, we just have a couple of questions about the same thing that you just addressed.
Sure.
The first and foremost, we have a lot of legislations in place, and some revolutionary changes have happened in India. But yet, when it comes to implementing these laws, there are certain bottlenecks. How do you think, ma'am, we can overcome them at an individual level?
Whoever
as a-
has positioned this question needs to answer what the bottlenecks they presume they are.
So
If
the
you're
bottleneck,
speaking, which city are you speaking to me from?
I'm speaking from Hyderabad, ma'am. I'm a journalist here in
So
Hyderabad.
ask me which woman sitting in New York right now who has joined us can move about in New York without fear. Which woman in London can keep her iPhone in her hand and cross the street? Today in
So,
India, we have one-stop centers across every district where under one roof, women in need, and especially those who are victims of violence, can get immediate legal aid, help from the police, help from medical professionals, and a short stay home. Today in India, we have 1,063 fast track courts where over 2 lakh cases have already been resolved. In every state in India, we have a women's helpline, and there's a national 181 helpline which responds immediately, and the response time is less than 5 minutes at the national helpline as well. These numbers speak about the change that India has undergone. Ask friends across the globe how much time does emergency services, let's say in the UK and the US, take to reach people. Their countries, especially your friends in New York, will tell you, which are right now dealing with rat infestation. We as Indians need to celebrate at least the long strides that we have undertaken completely as Indians, cohesively, collectively.
Priti ma'am, there's a question from the audience asking about how financial empowerment can be facilitated further to those coming from marginalized societies, especially as policy in India.
Today, we have something called the self help group revolution, which is underway, where 9 million women are working there are 9 crore women, so that's 90 million women who are working in self help groups. Their yearly turnover is around $37 billion. Currently, their funding till now from the government's treasury has been around 8 lakh crore rupees. These are the women who are actually bringing grassroots economic revolution in our country. Prime Minister Modi has already unleashed a program called Lakpati Didi, where over 10 million women are already Lakpatis. I think as Indians, we can contribute to making that Lakpati Didi a Karodpati Didi. And for that, you need to introduce women to technological tools, help them understand certification and compliances if they want to engage deeper in their domestic market, or help them understand how to identify global, international, and emerging markets for their products and their wear. Those ladies who are into manufacturing of products, what can technology do to enhance productivity of their particular product line, or how can you help design the product better so that it finds a wider market? Those are the kind of elements we can contribute to.
We'd like to thank you for that wonderful, inspiring, the words of wisdom that you've given us today. And I'm sure, looking at you as a firebrand woman who has inspired us all through the last couple of decades, ma'am, we hope that we see many more leaders like you in the parliament, in members as members of legislative assemblies, and in various other capacities. We thank you so much for your presence, ma'am. I
Thank you.
request Jayant Chalaji to please give his thanks to our chief guest, Smriti ma'am, today.
And thank you, our heartfelt thank you to Smriti Irani ji. I know this was a last minute thing and you have to reschedule certain things to address this dynamic Telugu American and Indian American community here and in India. We wholeheartedly, again, thank you for taking time, and we look forward to, sometime meeting you in New Delhi or when you visit the US.
Well, I am
welcome
in
you.
the US. I'm going to speak at Harvard, Berkeley, Stanford, Kellogg, and the Arizona State University between the 10th and the 20th of April. So if you're anywhere near the vicinity, I'm happy to meet.
Oh, definitely, ma'am. Our Telugu community will definitely meet with you either in one of those cities. When you are there, we will get your schedule from Sandeep ji, and we'll try to arrange a get together with ATA leadership.
Look forward. Namaskar.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jayant Chalagaru. Let's have a short break now, and we will commence our first panel discussion in just a couple of minutes.
జతకొస్తావు కూతురిలా ప్రేమై ఎదనల్లే తీగవు సహనంలో భువి నీవు త్యాగంలో రవి నీవు అనురాగంలోన నీకేవి సాటిరావు
మహిళా నీకు జోహారు మహిళా నీకు సరిలేరు మహిళా నీవు మహిళనా తిరగాడే దేవతవు చరితను మరువని వీర నారి నువ్వు గగనము కెలిసిన జ్ఞాన భావుటవు జగతిన గెలువని రంగమంటూ నీకేది లేదు వనిత పలుకులు రణకలు నేర్పే పంతులువు బ్రతుకను రథముకు సారథేగనువు మగువని మనకు కరుండకుంటే సృష్టికేది భవిత ఏటా జరిపి వేడుకలు ఆటా మనకు చెబుతోంది అంతర్జాతీయ మహిళా దినోత్సవ నమస్సులు
అమ్మై బ్రతుకిస్తావు ఆలై జతకొస్తావు కూతురిలా ప్రేమై ఎదనల్లే తీగవు సహనంలో భువి నీవు త్యాగంలో రవి నీవు అనురాగంలోన నీకేవి సాటిరావు
మహిళా నీకు జోహారు మహిళా నీకు సరిలేరు మహిళా నీవు మహిళనా తిరగాడే దేవతవు చరితను మరువని వీర నారి నువ్వు గగనము కెలిసిన జ్ఞాన భావుటవు జగతిన గెలువని రంగమంటూ నీకేది లేదు వనిత పలుకులు రణకలు నేర్పే పంతులువు చెబుతోంది అంతర్జాతీయ మహిళా దినోత్సవ నమస్సులు.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to this virtual Women's Day celebration happening, which is being organized by the American Telugu Association. As the commencement of our first panel discussion about women in public service, I'd like to introduce the moderator, a distinguished, empowered woman herself, who sets an example of how women can break free and cross boundaries and achieve so much during their journey. I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Srilekha Palle as a healthcare executive driving performance and innovation across major healthcare systems in DC, Maryland, Virginia. A prominent Asian American leader in the Commonwealth of Virginia, Dr. Palle is actively engaged in cultural, religious, business, and political initiatives across the region. She currently serves as chair of the Virginia Asian Advisory Board, appointed by Governor Glenn Youngkin, and continues to head and lead efforts that strengthen community engagement and representation. I now hand over to Dr. Srilekha Palle to introduce our distinguished panel members today and commence the discussion.
Thank you so much, Swapna Garu. Namaste to everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce our Maryland Lieutenant Governor Aruna K. Miller. Aruna mana Telugu bidda, so it's a proud moment for all of us that she's here and she would like to provide, she was invited to provide us some remarks. Aruna K. Miller is the 10th Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland. She was born in Andhra Pradesh, India, and she immigrated with her parents to the United States at the age of 7. Throughout her career, which I've followed for 2 decades right now, Ms. Miller has devoted herself to public service and to removing systematic barriers so we can create opportunities for all. As Lieutenant Governor, currently she focuses on key policy areas including transportation, mental health, and STEM equity. Aruna Miller Garu, we are so thankful you took the time to join us on this Women's Day celebrations, and I will open up to you for your welcome remarks.
Srilekha Garu, thank you so much, Andy, for that wonderful, warm introduction. And to everyone, namaskaram, happy Ugadi, and those who are also celebrating happy Eid. May this season bring you and your families new beginnings, joy, and peace. And I also want to say thank you to everyone that made this event possible. Making events look easy takes a whole lot of hard work. So thank you to everyone. And I especially want to say that it's an honor to be here at the American Telugu Association and to join so many distinguished speakers, change makers, and barrier breakers. Thank you for your extraordinary leadership. And Rani Ji Garu, as you mentioned, India is the largest democracy in the world, and US is the oldest democracy. So it's a great union and a friendship between India and USA. But certainly we have much to learn from India and, when it comes to women's empowerment. So I want to give a big heartfelt congratulations to Charuni Pattabandi Sanchez on becoming the first Indian American Secretary of State in Delaware's history. Representation isn't only about women stepping into leadership. It's also about the men who walk beside us, who believe in our strength, and who amplify our voices. So a great big shout out and gratitude to Na Friendu, Mi Friendu, Jay Garu. Jay Garu, thank you so much, Andy, for your extraordinary leadership here at ATA and for always being a champion of women's empowerment. And, for those of you that are listening, Jay Garu has been part of my humble journey from the very onset, from the very beginning. So I was asked to share a little bit na story gurinchi meeto matlartam. So everybody has a story to tell. Na story idi. Like some of you, as Srilekha Garu mentioned, I'm an immigrant to this country. And I became a citizen in the year 2000. But I want to say that every opportunity that's been given to me is because of the risks that my Nanagaru, my Amma took to come to this country. 70s లో ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినప్పుడు in the 1960s, it wasn't what it looks like today. They took a lot of courage to be here, and I will forever be grateful for my mom and dad for the, courage that they took to give me and my siblings the opportunities we have today. So in the year 2000, I became a citizen. And that's when I voted for the very first time, and I became very active in the Democratic Party. There was an opportunity to run for an open seat in the year 2010. And many of the state leaders came up to me and asked me to run. And I was like, I don't know what it's like to be a politician because I'd never seen anybody that looked like me be elected in my state. And I had all sorts of doubts. Maryland voters, they're not going to vote for me because I don't look like them. So lots and lots of doubts went through my head. But it was my husband who insisted that I do it. And so I threw my name in the hat. And fortunately for me, I did end up winning the election and became the first Indian American woman to ever be elected in the Maryland General Assembly. So here's what happened to me. As many of us as women know, we get all sorts of people that'll step in the way and will tell us, are we doing the right thing? I had a wakaina nadigurkochiyewanardante. Yenti, what's a nice girl like you doing in the business of politics? Obviously, you've never met my 3 daughters. They'll tell you I'm not that nice. And second of all, the business of politics is every one of our business, right? So the second time I ran for office was in 2018. I ran to run for Maryland's Congressional District 6. Soon as I put my name in the hat, I want you to know Jay Garu and many of our Telugu community immediately got behind me. Again, so very grateful. But one of my opponents said to me that he would bury me in his money. Well, there was 8 candidates that ran. I wasn't buried. I came in second place. And while I didn't win, I sure made this gentleman spend a whole lot of money. The third time I ran for public office was in the role that I'm in right now. Chala Mandi, they came up to Westmore and myself and they said, 2 people of color, I'm not sure that's a winning ticket. And, the interesting thing is they went up to my partner in this work, Wes Moore, and they told him that. They said, look, Wes, we don't recommend that you pick a woman of color because this, state has never elected, first of all, a Black governor. Second of all, 2 people who are people of color. So even I was worried. Neen Korda, I went up to Westmore. I said, are you sure you want to do this? And you know what he said to me? He said, if people aren't going to vote for our ticket because there are 2 people of color on it, they were never going to vote for were never going to vote for me anyway in the first place. And he took a bold risk and he brought me onto the ticket. And of course, the rest is history. But here's what I want to tell you a little bit about that history. Those people who underestimated Westmore on my ticket, who told us that we wouldn't be a winning ticket, they underestimated one important factor, and that was the voters of Maryland. Maryland voters blew the roof off of conventional wisdom. Maryland voters went on to elect the first Black governor in the state's history and the first Indian American lieutenant governor in the state's history. And they gave the Moore Miller ticket the largest percentage of votes of any gubernatorial ticket in Maryland's history. And they handed the nation the current and only Black governor right now and the first Indian American lieutenant governor. And here's the thing, they handed the nation the first Black-brown gubernatorial ticket to ever win in the history of the United States. So I want to remind all of you as women that are here that history isn't made by cynics, critics, and doubters. History is made by believers. So believe that you are enough, just as you are, no matter your gender, your skin color, your professional background, your socioeconomic background, your religious preference. You are exactly who you need to be. And as you walk through life, look, life is going to give us our setbacks, but here's the thing, it'll also give us our comebacks. So as you go through life, try to lift others up as much as you can each and every day, because it's not about being the first. That's never the assignment. The assignment is breaking down walls and creating space where everyone can live their authentic lives. Fighting for women's rights and our empowerment means that when you walk into spaces that don't look like you, it's not a sign that you're not meant to be there. It's a force telling you that you need to be there to complete the space. These spaces need you. They need you to make these spaces bigger, not smaller. And no matter how scary it feels, they need you there to right the wrongs. So this is the advice that I offer to all the women that are on this call. Don't just step out of your comfort zone. Live outside of it as much as you possibly can. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Growth, opportunities, and friendship, and knowing your own power can only happen if you're willing to do things you've never done before. And remember, growth and comfort can't ride the same horse. So get comfortable with being uncomfortable if you want to achieve women's empowerment. And the most important advice that I can offer is that to encourage you, no matter what your role is, whether you're a physician, a business owner, an educator, no matter what, please put service as a central part of your life. You see, when we serve, we shift from a life of consumption to a life of contribution, from a life of me to a life of we. It is said that the two most important days of our life are the day that we're born and the day we discover why. When you discover that second most important day of your life, and that is when you learn the purpose of your life, you'll find that life opens up in ways you could have never imagined. So please share your talents and your authentic self with the world, and believe that you are enough, and trust Devaru and the universe. Thank you.
Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller, you gave me goosebumps at certain point. Again, I have to repeat and say you are our Telugu Bidda. I have seen you in power and not in power for certain days, but you always have been super open, super inclusive, always coming on when possible and giving your remarks and inspiring other women. We thank you for your service, and I'm glad you said service is always going to be the motto, because we are moving next to our wonderful panel where we will be talking about women in leadership and public service. Again, thank you, Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller Garu. Hope to see you shortly some other time. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, it's truly a pleasure to welcome all of you to the next powerful conversation that is focused on leadership, service, and transformational impact. We are joined by three trailblazing women whose work spans governance, healthcare, and advocacy, and who also embody the power of purposeful leadership. These female remarkable leaders exemplify courage, innovation, and service in their respective field. Each of them have shaped policy, inspired communities, and led with clarity in terms of both opportunities and challenges. Let me introduce our distinguished panelists. First, I want to bring on Secretary Kelly G. I have the pleasure of working with Secretary G. I've seen her great work. She is our Secretary of the Commonwealth of Virginia, whose career spans legislative leadership, public policy, and executive governance. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Apurva Ramaswamy. She's a physician, surgeon, researcher, and also an advocate who champions patient-centered care and brings a deeply human approach to medicine and public advocacy. Last but not the least, Secretary Sharini Patibanda Sanchez. She is the Secretary of State for Elevate that Aruna Miller was talking about, a leader whose work in law, land use, and state governance has broken new ground in inclusion and administrative reform. Before we dive into the discussion, I would like to invite all three panelists to briefly share their opening remarks. I will start with Secretary Kelly G. We'll move on to Dr. Ramaswamy and then Secretary Sharini Patibanda Sanchez. Secretary G.
And to be a part of this esteemed group of women. Events like today showcase that empowered women can and should empower other women. It falls on all of us to lift up the next generation of females leaders. March, generally celebrated as Women's History Month in the Commonwealth, is about celebrating women, honoring your achievements, and recognizing the resilience and strength it takes to make the impact that all of you do on your families and communities and workplaces every day. I have been a female in a leadership role for about a decade now, and what I have learned is that women are naturally good leaders. We show up to work with empathy, we show up authentically as ourselves, and with a level of self-awareness that makes us good managers and good executives. And when I was a young executive, I naively thought that because I sat at the head of the table, I had to know the most. And that very quickly paralyzed me and humbled me. And I've learned over the years that my success is measured by the success of those around me. So surround yourself with people that make you smarter and challenge you and share a commitment to excellence. And today is a perfect example of that. Thank you for having me.
Marks.
Hi, hello. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored to be here with this whole panel. It's been so exciting, this whole journey for us, our family. So a little bit about myself. I am a physician, surgeon. I'm a throat surgeon at Ohio State. I treat patients who have swallowing disorders. It's an extremely underserved problem. I'm one of very few people in the world, in fact, who do this because of historically, we just have not paid attention to quality of life and these issues in patients. And this has been something that's been a huge loss for so many of us who, if you think about what we do when we're in the holidays, when we spend time with our families, it's usually to sit down to a delicious meal and talk to our families. And those are the problems that I have the honor of treating for my patients who've often gone through cancer and all kinds of other health problems and now are unable to eat, unable to communicate with their families. And at the Ohio State, I am able to treat our patients and often get them eating, get them communicating again. When I was a child, I'm also an immigrant. My family moved from Kanpur, India when I was 4. And we came to this country. My father's also a surgeon. We came to this country with the philosophy of you keep your head down, you work hard. And with those kind of immigrant mentality, you can get ahead in this country and make a difference. And that's really been the case. This country, the United States of America, has given us so much in terms of being able to accomplish, not just as immigrants, but for me as a woman, being able to accomplish so much in just a few years. That said, I think the mentality of keeping your head down and doing what you need to do has kind of blinded us over the years from the things that we need to do. Sometimes we need to look up and see what's going on around us and make a change. And I'm so honored. My husband, Vivek Ramaswamy, has really opened my eyes to that need in so many ways over the course of our time together. We're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. And what I've learned from him and from the journey that we've had as a family is that you really need to be able to look around and then make those changes, because those changes will affect you, your family, the people you love, the people you care about. So if you're not able to make those changes as immigrants, as people who come from different backgrounds, that's our responsibility as Americans, just as much as anyone else. And so I'm so proud of the people who are on this panel with me who have done that in so many different ways. And I'm so excited to be able to speak to everyone.
Swami, coming from a rehab medicine background, I really know what you do. I think I know, and I know how much patients appreciate your services. Let's move on to Secretary Panda Sanchez, another pioneer right now, another trailblazer for us. Secretary, your opening remarks, please.
Thank you so much. Namaskaram, everyone. Happy Ugadi, Eid Mubarak. I was so honored to be invited to speak today and to be referenced by Lieutenant Governor Miller. Like Lieutenant Governor Miller, I'm also Telugu. I was born here in the United States, but my parents are from Hyderabad, and I'm the proud granddaughter of two grandfathers who really, I think, are the inspiration for my public service. Dr. A.S. Rao, who founded the ECIL company in Hyderabad, is my maternal grandfather, and Dr. Madhava Patibanda, who is a Telugu scholar, is the father of my father, and actually wrote a book named Charani, and I was named after that book, never having received the opportunity to meet him as he passed away before I was born. So I do think a lot about my grandparents and their struggles in India, and use that as my inspiration for service. I'm an attorney. I was born and raised in the great state of Delaware. My parents immigrated to Delaware from India by way of Indiana, actually. And then I went to Los Angeles and practiced law. I was in land use and administrative law and government affairs attorney before returning home to Newcastle County, where I was born and raised, to serve as the economic development director. And in that role, which was actually, I came back to Delaware during COVID, we were really struggling to help our working families that were shut out of jobs. We were trying to help mothers who were scared to seek healthcare for their children because of the risk of COVID and other diseases. And I had an opportunity to work on a nurse family visiting expansion in Newcastle County, where we used federal dollars that came from the Biden administration to expand the opportunity for mothers to receive nurse home visiting. These are essentially Medicare mothers or Medicaid mothers who are living in poverty, and they would have access to a free nurse who would come to their home and do checks on their children, as well as themselves, to make sure that they were doing well. And these are evidence-based, outcomes-based programs that we were trying to expand in Newcastle County, because as the economic development director, we know that women contributing to our economy is really the backbone, and we must empower women to be able to care for their families and work when necessary. I then had the honor of being appointed by Governor Matt Meyer to be Delaware's 81st Secretary of State. And today, on International Women's Day, I'm one of 3 women who ever served in that role, and I'm the first Indian American to ever be a Secretary of State in Delaware. So I'm incredibly proud to serve in this capacity and represent my community as an appointed official in the state of Delaware. We have been working hard to, combat some of the challenges that we're facing right now, but all with the eye of service and bringing resources and aid and help to our most deserving and underserved population in our state. So thank you so much for having me.
I mean, I think everything you said resonated, especially the service is really resonating to me here. So let's go ahead and begin by exploring the early sparks that led each of you to where you are today. I am sure there were tons of paths that you had to take to get where you are at this point. Let me start with Secretary G. Secretary G, I've seen you over the past few years. You've served across multiple branches of Virginia's public sector. You went to the legislative halls. You were at an executive leadership helm. What catalyzed your interest in public service, and how has those diverse experiences shaped your approach to leadership?
Thank you for the thoughtful question. I know exactly where I was when I got this inclination that I wanted to do public service. And I've just crossed the 15-year mark of serving as a state employee in some capacity or another. I was in it was my intro to government class when I was in my first year of college. And the very first day of class, the professor named Dr. Love, you'll never forget a name like that, walked us through how every aspect of your life is controlled by the government. I mean, the food you eat, the roads that you drive on, what you're taught in schools. I mean, zoning and building codes, like literally every aspect of your life. And I felt really compelled in that moment that I wanted to be part of the conversation, not just oblivious to kind of how government was going to impact my life every day. So that's what got me into government. And since I have stayed, I truly have found my why. And I think one of the earlier speakers mentioned this: when it's not what we do, it's not how we do it, it's why we do what we do that help us thrive and succeed. And I feel like serving as a public servant and in state government, I'm in a position to bring government to the people and to allow individual citizens to be change agents to better their communities, to drive societal outcomes through policy and rulemaking. And so I truly feel like I'm trying to make government for and of the people.
Thank you, Secretary G. I think you very well said, if you are not going to be one of those influential or decision maker, you have to be on the menu, just kind of watching what's going on and how your water is getting polluted, but what are you going to do about it, right? So it's great that you're in your position. Let me move on to Dr. Ramaswamy. Dr. Ramaswamy, in American Telugu Association, Mr. Challa mentioned several of women are in the leadership roles, and actually several young women, as you know, in our communities, want to get into medicine path. So a lot of them are listening live feed, I can tell you that. So I want to know your journey in medicine. It spans from prestigious academic institutions and clinical innovation. I'm sure a lot of Indian American girls dream colleges, right? But my question to you is, what initially drew you to a life of service in medicine versus just being a doctor? Because you're just not that. You're always talking about service and advocating for everything. How has that evolved through advocacy and leadership?
I think I learned a lot from my father, Ashutosh Tiwari. He's actually a urologist. He treats prostate cancer, and he's the head of urology at Mount Sinai. And he has been a trailblazer in so many ways. As an immigrant, he was trained in India and came to the United States. And I think some people on this call probably know what that's like, to have done a full residency and fellowship in India, then came here and did it all over again. He did all of it. He did a fellowship as well as residency again in the United States. And he then went on. He was fortunate. Bhagwan put him in a place where he was part of the first robotic prostate cancer surgeries in the country, in the world. And he is now a world leader in that. And as I grew up, I never saw someone who loved what he did more than my father. And despite everything that he went through, such grueling training, raising 2 children on a resident salary, going through everything over again, he was just in love with what he did and the honor to be able to treat his patients. And that really inspired me and what drew me to medicine. Because of my parents' hard work and a lot of luck, was able to go to some great institutions, as you mentioned. I went to Yale for college and then medical school, and then went on to residency at Columbia Cornell in New York City. And then I did my training in throat surgery at UC Davis in California. So it's been a long journey of training, certainly, to get to where we are. But I think what I would say to students or early trainees is that it's very much worth it. Medicine is still, despite everything, just an amazing field. It's a great way to earn money. We all have to, but to be able to do that while getting an intimate relationship with your patients, while being able to help them in some small way and make someone's life better and be part of such an important part of their life, is such an honor. And I feel really blessed that I've been able to do that. And I think that's something that can be discouraging when you're at the beginning of it, thinking about all of the trials. And the best thing that I can say is it's worth it. You have to work hard, but it is I think it's one of those fields where I feel like I'm close to Bhagwan by doing it.
Thank you, Dr. Ramaswamy. Having a role model is so essential because you see and learn from them. And that's what we try to do with the American Telugu Association. You not only have a role model in the homes, but you also see these role models like you all out in the public. It only inspires our women and girls in the community. Let me move on to Secretary Patibanda Sanchez. I'm glad you spoke about your background, but I'm curious to know your background merges like legal, local, now statewide governance. Was there anything that inspired your commitment to this kind of public life? And do you have a leadership philosophy that developed over the years as a female through these transitions of legal, local, and now statewide?
Yes, thank you so much, Srilekha Garu, for the question. I do remember when my interests first peaked in public service. I was about 10 years old, and my father was, took me to a rally for a presidential candidate that was coming through Delaware, which is rare because we're a small state. And I was so inspired by everything I watched on TV that year and everything that was happening in our country at 10 that I told my dad, I want to go into public service someday. And he said, okay, that sounds okay, but maybe you should pursue becoming a doctor first. I think a lot of our South Asian parents encourage us to go to medicine. And sadly, I did disappoint my family a little bit by pursuing law instead. I was a economics major at the University of Southern California, and I also took a law and economics class. And that was really the intersection between the law and, efficiency and doing things with an economic standpoint. And that class really inspired me to go to law school. So I did work before going to law school. And I think that working as an analyst and just having a job right out of undergrad is very important to having a holistic view of why you want to be a lawyer. I think that can help focus you as you pursue your higher education. So yeah, it was really as a 10-year-old that I thought I want to do this. And then I thought, well, if I ever want to run for office or make laws, I should probably understand how to write them. And that's why I went to law school. And then I actually started out as a litigator for a small law firm in Los Angeles. And I didn't exactly plan for that to happen. I actually graduated in 2011 during a difficult time in our economy, and it was a difficult time for lawyers to be hired. And so, I had passed the California bar, so I took the job that I could get. And but before taking that job, I was actually lucky enough to get an internship with United States Senator Chris Coons. And that internship really showed me that public service was where I wanted to be. But like many other students, many maybe that are listening, I had student debt that I had to pay back. So I went to work as a litigator for about 2 years. And then through networking and, connecting with others, I was able to get a job in land use and local government issues in Los Angeles. And as you all know, Los Angeles is the second biggest city in the country, and so local government is sometimes national government over there. So I got a firsthand look at how policies were affecting regular people living in the city of Los Angeles trying to make a living. So we did a lot of work related to housing and homelessness. We were representing clients that were trying to build projects like housing, hotels, and things like that would offer good jobs to the community. And so with that kind of economic development in mind, I thought, well, this is something I really want to do in my home state. But it did take me a little bit of time to be able to get back to Delaware to serve. I was lucky enough to stay in touch with Senator Coons' office. And, Delaware is a small state. We all are connected. We're a state of neighbors. So I always just stayed connected to my roots. And eventually, the then county executive hired me to be the economic development director. And that was my ability to come back and use all the skills that I learned as a land use attorney and professional in Los Angeles back in my home state. So I'm really proud to be able to have worked on so many initiatives to help strengthen quality of life for our neighbors in Delaware.
Thank you, Secretary Patamanda Sanchez. I think one of the things that you mentioned, stay right to your roots, right? And also keeping up with your network. I mean, you had great relationship with Senator Coons, so you kind of nourished that. I think that's something our women and girls, especially, has to keep hearing that over and over again, creating the right, good network, good people network, and ensuring that we stay in touch with those good people. Will kind of get us somewhere. And it definitely has worked with you. And I'm sure your parents are super proud of where you are, even if you're not a physician. So, ladies, each of you has led through so much of complexity to get where you are. Sometimes I think it's often in systems, they're not built with women in mind, right? When these systems were built, sometimes I also get into a situation. I said, did you ever think of women and girls? But Dr. Ramaswamy, I will go to you with question in both medicine and public engagement. Did you encounter any cultural or institutional barriers that you faced as a woman in leadership? And if so, how did you cultivate that resilience of long hours, trying to balance everything? How did that process go for you?
Well, for what it's worth, I know I mentioned having to work hard as a trainee in medicine, but the hardest job I've had is being a mom of two boys. I think that is a full-time job, and nothing is more emotionally and physically exhausting than that process, especially in the first year. So I do think that, yes, a lot of the pathways to get to accomplishing things are difficult, especially in medicine, but I don't think that they are insurmountable. And in some ways, at least for exposure and the things we need to do in medicine, I wouldn't cut down much more than we already have. That said, I think being able to incorporate being a parent in your work is difficult for everyone. And I think that that's been the biggest transition and the thing that we're trying to understand, how it can be translated for everyone, not just people who can afford to have nannies and lots of help in multiple ways. At one point during my, the last 2 years, I was supposed to operate the next day. We have 4 nannies kind of rotating all the time. And yet, despite that, two were out sick. One was getting married and the other one had another event out of town. And we were literally left the night before with no one to take care of my kids. And that's one of those things that it's, whether you're a woman or a man, taking care of children is very difficult while having a job. And, thank God my husband's parents were able to drive from Cincinnati. Someone else was able to come meet us at 5 a.m. before I had to leave for work. But that's difficult for everyone. And being able to make systems that are resilient to two people in a household having jobs while being able to have a family are so essential, because women need to be able to work. I think we've demonstrated over decades and decades that we have so much to contribute, and having a 2-income household means that someone needs to be able to be there for the children. And that's something that we as a society really need to help manage. And there's so many thoughts on how we can do that. But that's been the biggest, I think, if we're talking about systemic issues with being a parent and a leader, that would be the one. The other one that I would point to is, again, childcare over the summers. We have entire months where our children who otherwise have great childcare have nothing. And if you think about systemic barriers for especially a single woman or someone who is trying to raise their children alone, how can you do that when you have childcare only for a certain amount of time, and then you have to find that money to be able to engage them? And that leads to a lot of learning loss, has been demonstrated so many ways, learning loss and inequality. And how can we fix that is really, I think we as a society, Democrats and Republicans, have to contend with.
Kind of said all the issues in such a tangible manner, right? Like having 4 babysitters. So you thought you had safety net, but sometimes I think as women and girls, we are faced with, we have the safety nets, we are able to afford certain portions of it, but when things fall apart, we still need to have that nice supporting structure. That's, I think, thank you for highlighting that. I tell all my girlfriends saying that you will only get somewhere when you have a support system. It could be parents, it could be friends, it could be neighbors, but build that network, because because no matter how accomplished you are, you still have practical things like affordability, taking care of babies, babysitters not coming in. What do you do with them in summer, right? Thank you for highlighting the practical aspects. And thank you for highlighting the support system importance. So, Secretary Pachibanda Sanchez, let me go to you. You are the first person of color to hold the office. Your visibility brings both opportunity and pressure too. I know folks think that's a great opportunity, but I also say it's a lot of pressure to be that first, right? Because now people are looking up to you, women and girls are looking up to you, especially in our communities. What systemic or cultural challenges have you encountered because of that? Even if you did or you did not, we would love for you to talk us through what guided you through those pressure moments.
No, thank you for the question. So first, I want to acknowledge that being a child of Indian immigrants, I was incredibly blessed by parents who did not struggle so much economically. They came here for more opportunity. My parents are both retired now, but she was a pediatrician, and my dad was an engineer at DuPont. And so we were a very average middle class family. We did not want for anything, went to public schools, and then went to high school in a institution called Tower Hill, which is a private school in Delaware. So growing up, I didn't feel disadvantaged when it came to education at all. But I will say that as a person of color, as someone who is not white, when I went away to college and started to work in the profession, I found myself to be the only person that was not a white male in many, many, many conference rooms. And that just being alone and feeling alone can be marginalizing. And I may have had a great idea, but I wasn't sure I could share it because the room was filled with men who were intimidating and probably were discounting me just because I was a woman. I was often asked if I was in the room because I was an assistant or a secretary to my boss, and instead of being his associate. That's very common. I think that happens to all women at some point in their professional lives. And that's difficult because after so many years of school and training, it's very, it can be demeaning to be referred to as something that, not that there's anything wrong with assistants and secretaries, are incredibly important to our jobs, but after training and being assumed that you play that role because obviously you're a woman, that can be hurtful at times. But I think for me, resilience is, you know why you're in this field. And that's the advice I would give to young people especially who are looking to do public service. Know why you want to serve. Have that in mind, because it's that when you wake up every morning, you tell yourself, okay, what am I doing to achieve a goal for that community or that person in mind? And that's how you structure your day, and that's how you stay grounded, and that's how you stay strong in the face of adversity. So for me, I wake up every morning and I say, the taxpayers of Delaware pay my salary. I have to earn it. I have to do something good for them, and I have to provide for the families that are counting on us. And yes, it is a lot of pressure to be the first Indian American and first South Asian and first person of color and all these things. I think what helps me get through that pressure, because I do want to be a good role model for all of our young women, especially, and young brown women especially, that I don't want to be the last in this role. So that really is important to me, to make sure that many, many women follow me, and that we nurture them. When I was in my roles in Newcastle County, a young woman came up to me, a young Telugu girl, actually. She was a junior in high school, and she asked me to be her mentor. And I did not hesitate. I said, of course, absolutely. Let's touch base. We had a great meeting. We keep in touch. She'll send me things. She has a great career path that she wants to pursue. And I always just remind people, get your degrees, get trained, do well, make money, do everything you can, and then come back and serve. Come back and serve your state, come back and serve your community. It's the most fulfilling work I've ever done. And I encourage everyone to try and serve at least at some point in their life.
Yeah, no, those are some wise words, Secretary. I know that I even in medical field, I love my nurses and everything else, but I'm the director of the center. And when folks say I'm the director, they repeatedly ask me, saying that, but who is over you in this department? I'm like, nobody. That's me. So I think it takes a while for folks to realize that We are there because of our capability and stuff. But again, for overall, I think it's a super welcoming, a super supportive environment is what this great country provides us. But that little bias that you say, you look at female doctors and they call them nurses, no offense, but they went to 14 years of schools to be a surgeon. Let's be respectful of that education and so on and so forth. So I think a lot of us can resonate, but thank you for providing the solutions of how you came up with. Let me move on to Secretary G. Secretary G, I see you. I mean, I kind of semi-work with you. I see you in multiple roles, but not a single moment when you come to us with meetings or agenda, you come across as though you're very busy. But we see you with governor, we see you in the field, you manage 7 advisory board and another 70 more jobs. So when you're navigating so many roles across government policy, what challenges you face as women leadership, even if you do, because just because I say you face leadership, I mean, sometimes maybe you as women, you may not specifically face anything, but I would love to know, how do you stay grounded amid these competing priorities? I'm sure you get 200 emails a day. So how do you do that? So how do you stay grounded?
Well, thank you. And this is actually a really wonderful opportunity to say Srileka, Dr. Pillai has been, I mean, just an amazing friend of the Youngkin administration. She has stepped up in such a meaningful way to chair our Asian Advisory Board, which is no small feat. And she's truly helping us make inroads with the vast Asian American community. So thank you for helping be a good partner in all of this. I'm not without my struggles, and I'm gonna lean a lot on what Dr. Ramswamy was saying about being a mother and being a professional. When Governor Youngkin called me into his office to ask me to be Secretary of the Commonwealth, which is the equivalent of Secretary of State in Delaware, I hesitated for only a moment because I'm going through a divorce and I have my kids every other week. I've got twin boys that are 4, and I was really worried that, every other week when I have to leave in time for daycare, or if they're sick and have a fever, it's me that has to be home with them, that was going to inhibit me from doing this job to the best of my abilities and to what it deserved, right? To the level of capacity it deserves. And I'll never forget that moment. And this is a sign of a good leader. He just very calmly said to me, "It's okay. We want you. We will make it work." And we need leaders in our workplaces that recognize that we are all humans first. We have family that we have to care for, old and young. We have neighbors and personal, passions that also need to be a part of our lives. And so navigating kind of the personal life and the executive life has been an interesting time for me. Madam Secretary, I also wanted to say here a little bit about what it means to have a seat at the table, which you just talked about. When I was early in my career, and I think we all know politics is sometimes political atmospheres can be this way. I was often the only woman in the room. A lot of my rooms were dominated by older males, and I'm a young female working in politics, and I never wanted to be in the room because they needed the woman's voice. Like, that's not why I wanted to be there. I wanted to be there because of merit and my ideas and my contributions. So while I want to be there on merit, I also think it's incumbent on all of us to not be blind to building a table that looks like the diversity of America. And so we can do that in a thoughtful and meaningful way without diminishing somebody to a singular gender or a race. So.
Secretary J, very well said. Thank you. Thank you for those thoughtful messages, and thanks for your great work to this great Commonwealth. I will wrap up by asking one last question to all 3 of you, the same question. And I would like for Secretary Patibanda Sanchez to go first this time. Is there a core message or piece of wisdom do you hope the audience that are listening, especially women and children, carries forward from today's conversation? I know you guys, through just your journey of life and the way you all answered, if I could have a pen, I would just start jotting down. But I know I'll go back and review this conversation again, because there are so many things that I could just take away as a practical tips. But is there a core message or piece of wisdom as your closing remark you would like our women and girls to take this message from today's conversation?
Thank you, Sheila Kagaru. I don't know if it's wisdom, and first of all, Madam Secretary G, thank you for what you said too. I think you hit it on the head over there. You don't want to be in the room because you're a woman, and you don't want to be feel like you're just being asked because of that role. But I can tell you and everyone listening that you deserve to be where you are. It's not because you're a woman, and it's not because you're checking a box for somebody. So first of all, Madam Secretary, I hope we can collaborate. Virginia and Delaware are so close to each other, so I'm looking forward to working with you. But I would say that and to that point, that your voice and your experience matter, and that when shared with others is going to help make the world a better place. I think that would be the advice that I give to anyone listening, that your experience and what you went through to get to where you are means everything, and it makes you who you are. And that perspective that you have to share to another room, whether it's filled with people who look like you or not, will only make the ideas that come out of that room better. And that's really what I've experienced. When I do find the strength to open my mouth, I feel like the end product is always better than where it started, because you're giving your perspective, and that turns out to be a perspective that so many others share. You may not know it at that time, but it's true. So thank you for everyone that tuned in and watched today. And if any of you are in Delaware and want to come learn about how to serve Delaware, please do reach out to Department of State. We look forward to having you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Secretary. I say past experiences are just right to move forward. We learn a lot from past experiences, just like the way I call it as history, right? I learned that from Mr. Ramaswamy, history. Lots of his wisdom is what I can sometimes translate in my message thing. But thank you, Secretary Patibanda Sanchez. If you don't mind, stay on for another minute or so. We would like for Mr. Challa to come in and thank you all as well. Now I'll move on to Dr. Apurva Ramaswamy. Dr. Ramaswamy, we would love to hear your pulse of wisdom as a closing remark.
I think if I'm to give practical wisdom to some of the younger people on this call, it is echoes what's already been said by the Lieutenant Governor and the Madam Secretary, that it is so important. What you have to contribute is essential. All of us have an important gift that we have been given by God, and it's our job here while we're on this earth to show the world why, again, we have been put here and what that gift is. And that's, the most practical kind of advice. But the other practical advice I would say is that you have to pick who you share that life with. It is so, so important for us to have a community of parents, friends, spouses, everyone around us, mentors, who acknowledge that we have something important to contribute and are able to help us to achieve those goals. So those would be the two most practical pieces. First of all, that you deserve and need to be at the table. And second of all, that you need help and a community in order to express all of the amazing things that you are in the fullest manner possible. Again, thank you again for having us.
Thank you, Dr. No, thank you, Dr. Ramaswamy. Support and network. I mean, I think you said it a couple of times, and that's a truly pulse of wisdom, especially for first-generation immigrants and second-generation immigrants, right? Until they kind of build that huge network, it's important to have their support system to succeed. Secretary Kelly G, again, saving the best for the last. Go ahead, Secretary G. What are your closing remarks for us?
Thank you. I want to throw two pieces of data into the conversation that I think are going to round out what we've all been saying, which is that girls right now are sometimes at a disadvantage. That 57% of U.S. teen girls report feeling sad or hopeless, and sometimes there's been data to show that there's a little bit of a gap in confidence between young boys and young girls. And I think it just, again, is incumbent on us to be examples and role models for our next generation of leaders. And I think the best way to do that is to lean into their talents and to do these types of events year round. And just remember that I think they really need a hand up in today's society to know how special they all are.
Thank you, Secretary G. I know Commonwealth of Virginia does this STEM for Goals, where I try to grade those essays and stuff as a program for just encouraging STEM for Goals. So you're absolutely right. I mean, you just need a little hand up to kind of get where we are. So, I mean, on behalf of everyone here, I cannot even thank you enough for your time, insight, and most importantly, your unwavering commitment to public service and transformational leadership. I have followed all three of you for quite a bit, and I know you guys are, you ladies are very busy, but taking the time to come to the panel, I can tell that you brought a unique and powerful lens and also rooted in lived experience, like Secretary Patmanda Sanchez said, but also medical excellence and a deep belief in the power of women to shape the future of our communities and the country. I can also tell you that reflections not only enrich today's dialogue, but I'm sure in the future, whoever listens to this panel, you will inspire each of them to lead with integrity, act boldly, and also think bigger. I mean, how can we have a lieutenant governor, 2 secretaries of Commonwealth as females, and an amazing surgeon that went to school for 15 years, staying rooted in advancing our medicine and innovation. Thank you for your candor, your courage, and your service to this beautiful country. We are better because of your voices, and I'm proud that I'm a fellow woman just like you trying to get through in the community. To our audience, both in person and online, thank you for being here. Your engagement, curiosity, and thoughtful participations will make this conversation even more rich. At this time, I'm pleased to hand it over to our esteemed anchor, Swapna Garu, who will guide us through the reminder of programs, but also I would like to invite Jay Garu if he has any final things to say to our panelists before we kind of take them off the live feed.
Yeah. Comes to thank our esteemed guests. I'd like to compliment you, Dr. Srilekha Pillai, because you were so eloquent. You were so awesome. In fact, I'm wondering why you're not a television news moderator. You've been so wonderful in the way you've conducted the discussion today, and all our guests have been so real. These are our real heroes, and celebrating them today is an honor to all of us. Over to you, Jayan Chalagaru.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Incredible speakers and great moderation. I'm so honored to have all of you to speak at this ATA Women's Day celebration. Such a great message to daughters like my daughter, Shivani, who is watching, and many other second generation Indian Americans. You know, they can dream big. They can achieve what they want by hearing messages like you, and really in a short notice, all of you have made time in your schedules to attend this, and we will broadcast this message not just now, but I think in future multiple times. Again, thank you for coming here and be part of this.
And I know it's been a really, really engaging kind of a discussion, and all of us are sort of getting ready for the next one. Before we get into the next one, why don't we have a really quick break before I invite Dr. Madhavi Battula, who is a next panel moderator, and I introduce her. Let's have a really quick break right now.
జతకొస్తావు కూతురిలా ప్రేమై ఎదనల్లే తీగవు సహనంలో భువి నీవు త్యాగంలో రవి నీవు అనురాగంలోన నీకేవి సాటిరావు
మహిళా నీకు జోహారు మహిళా నీకు సరిలేరు మహిళా నీవు మహిళనా తిరగాడే దేవతవు చరితలు మరువని వీరనారి నువ్వు గగనము పిగిసిన జ్ఞాన భావుటవు జగతిన గెలువని రంగమంటూ నీకేది లేదు వనితా పలుకులు రణకలు నేర్పే పంతులువు బ్రతుకను రథముకు సారథేగనువు మగువని మనకు కరుండకుంటే సృష్టికే అంతర్జాతీయ మహిళా దినోత్సవ నమస్సులు.
అమ్మై బ్రతుకిస్తావు ఆలై జతకొస్తావు కూతురిలా ప్రేమై ఎదనల్లే తీగవు సహనంలో భువి నీవు త్యాగంలో రవి నీవు అనురాగంలోన నీకేవి సాటిరావు
మహిళా నీకు జోహారు, మహిళా నీకు సరిలేరు, మహిళా నీవు మహిళనా తిరగాడే దేవతవు. చరితను మరువని వీర నారి నువ్వు గగనము పిలిసిన జ్ఞాన భావుటవు జగతిన గెలువని రంగమంటూ నీకేది లేదు వనిత. పలుకులు నడకలు నేర్పే పంతులు బ్రతుకను రథముకు సారథేగనువు మగువని మనకు కరుండకుంటే సృష్టికేది భవిత. ఏటా జరిపి వేడుకలు ఆటా మనకు చెబుతోంది అంతర్జాతీయ మహిళా దినోత్సవ నమస్సులు.
అమెరికా తెలుగు సంఘం వారి మహిళా దినోత్సవ వేడుకల్లో పార్టిసిపేట్ చేస్తున్న అందరికీ కూడా మరొకసారి ధన్యవాదాలు చెప్తున్నాం. అలాగే ఆట నిర్వాహక సభ్యులందరికీ కూడా మరోసారి మనస్ఫూర్తిగా ధన్యవాదాలు చెప్పాలి మహిళలందరూ కూడా. ఎందుకంటే గత 16 సంవత్సరాల్లో ఎన్నో ఇటువంటి కార్యక్రమాలు చైతన్యాన్ని పెంచుతూ అలాగే మహిళల పాత్రని కూడా మరింత పెంచుతూ కార్యవాహక నిర్వాహక సభ్యులందరూ కూడా మనం చూస్తూ వచ్చాము. చాలా మంది మహిళలు పార్టిసిపేట్ చేయడం కూడా గమనార్హం. అండ్ ఐఎమ్ రియలీ ప్లీజ్ టు ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ ద నెక్స్ట్ panel and first of all the panel moderator, the eminent leaders panel. మహిళలు ఏ రంగంలో ఉన్నా భూమి మీద ఉన్న అంతరిక్షంలో ఉన్నా వారికి సాటి వారే అని నిరూపించుకుంటూ ఎన్నో ఉదంతాలు చూస్తూ వచ్చాం. ఐఎమ్ రియలీ ఆనర్డ్ టు ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ డాక్టర్ మాధవి బత్తుల. Since founding Halvik in 2007, Madhavi has successfully led the company through many years of remarkable growth. She actively supports strategic planning, corporate operations, and customer communications. And under her leadership, Halvik has maintained an intense focus on quality and implementation of best practices for service delivery. Before leading Halvik, Madhavi completed her medical residency in neurology, wow, and a fellowship in neuromuscular medicine at Johns Hopkins Hospital. A very accomplished woman leader we have with us, Dr. Madhavi Battula. Over to you to introduce the panelists.
Thank you, Swapna Garu. First of all, I would like to wish everyone Vishwavasanama Samvatsara Ugadi Subhakankshal andariki. And like Swapna Garu introduced me, so I'm a neurologist by profession, but I'm originally from Anantapur in Andhra Pradesh. While growing up, I grew up in 9 different cities in 3 different states because of my job. Because of my dad's job. And I did my medicine from Deccan College of Medical Sciences, and I did 3 years of research at Harvard University here, and did my neurology and neuromuscular fellowship at from Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. And however, being an entrepreneur was always at the back of my mind. So with my husband, we founded Halvik in 2007, and I run the business operations full time. Since then, we've grown significantly, supporting 13 different federal agencies with a staff of over 1,000 people. And I will moderate this panel. And on this panel, I have Bindya Vakil, K. Ramesh, and Dr. K. Guntapalli. And first, I would like to start with the Bindya Vakil. Actually, I'll have them self-introduce themselves. And first, I'll start with the Bindya Vakil.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, and wonderful to be here. As the founder CEO of ResLink, I spent 15 years running a company that I founded that was an enterprise B2B supply chain risk management firm with a mission of delivering a global supply chain that was resilient, sustainable, fair, and secure. I grew up in India, in Gujarat. That's my until I finished my undergrad MBA there. Came to the US in 2000. Worked in supply chain at Cisco, Flextronics, and Broadcom. And then while I was at Cisco, I went to MIT, got my master's in supply chain, and had this idea of building resilient supply chains by creating a data foundation for mapping. And so that was the start of this 15-year journey. We were the first to market and created this category out of nothing, went and raised venture funding, and then we successfully exited in 2023. I currently am on exec chair on the board of directors, and it's a pleasure to be here and look forward to being contributing here. So thank you.
Thank you, Bindya. And next, I would like K. Ramesh to introduce herself.
Thanks, Madhavi. Happy Ugadi to everyone. I'm so honored to be part of this amazing group of women and to speak in celebrating this Women's Day in honor of all women. Idi Nanikade. So to know a little bit about me, I'd like to share about my childhood as well. I was born in a very small village called Chinalapatti in Tamil Nadu, India, to a family of entrepreneurs. My grandfather, my uncles were in various industries, including textiles, appliances, and running different factories. As a teenager, I learned in our family that girls' education were cut short. As soon as they finished high school, they were getting married off. So as a young girl, I made a pact that I was going to work hard and stand on equal footing with the boys who were prepared to run businesses and break the glass ceiling within our family. So I worked hard. I was a topper in my 10th grade and my 12th grade. And I went to a professional engineering college, Kamraj University in Tamil Nadu, and graduated as a gold medalist from the university. And then went on to do my MS and MBA here in the United States. Also, during my 20s, I joined my husband in a consulting company, in starting a consulting company, Cyber Media Technologies, and providing consulting for the US federal government. And fast forward 25 years later, we built a company with about more than 100 million in revenues, 990 million in pipeline. And in 2023, we actually sold majority shares to a company named Main Street Capital Corporation, which is traded in the New York Stock Exchange. So I still remain on the board of the company after the exit and being a strategic advisor to the company right now.
Thank you, K. Ramesh. And next, I would like to ask Dr. K. Guntapalli to introduce herself.
Hi, thank you for having me on this panel. I'm Dr. Kalpalata, shortly called Dr. K in this country, Guntapalli. And I'm the youngest of the 5 siblings, married, born to 2 teachers. All 5 of us ended up being doctors. So women, and 4 of us are sisters. So women's education and women empowerment was really very much in our DNA. My father actually taught alphabet to his child bride. She was 9 and he was 17. So women's education was really a top priority in our family. I'm an endowed professor of pulmonary, critical care, and sleep medicine at Baylor College of Medicine for the past 36 years. Earlier, I have served on the faculties of Emory University, University of Pittsburgh, and Georgetown University. I have been very fortunate, although I migrated to United States in 1973. I've been very fortunate to give opportunities in both academic field as well as in the social circles, and be recognized for that as well. I served as the first woman president of American Association of Physicians of Indian origin, and also the first foreign educated woman president of American College of Chest Physicians in their 73 years. So I have been in my academic career and have been successful. I have over 170 publications, many grants, and 2 books, and served on boards like American Board of Internal Medicine, which are academic certifying bodies. So that's short about me. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. K. So next we will talk in detail with each person. So first I would start with Bindia Vakil. So I know you were working for Cisco, but what was your inspiration to start your own business, Bindia?
Yeah, so when I was at Cisco, it was in supply chain risk management. You may remember in 2005, we had the terrible tsunami in Thailand, and a lot of people died there. It had been, for me, I was in supply chain risk at the time. After that, we saw multiple events, right? We saw the Chengdu earthquake, we saw the Taiwan earthquakes, 9/11, all of these caused tremendous disruption to supply chain. Life-saving products could not make their way to people in needy communities worldwide. And as I was working at Cisco, we started to invent a way where companies could be a lot more proactive and using data rather than spending millions of dollars holding warehouses full of inventory. So I said someone needs to solve this problem. Ended up being me who partnered up. My husband is a co-founder. He's our technical brains. And so I would come home all the time and someone should start a company. And then the two of us architected what needed to be done. I ended up leaving. Got our first few customers, got our first investors, and then he ended up joining me a couple of years down the road. That was our journey. We ended up creating this category. I was somehow ended up being the face of supply chain. I've been on TV, on Bloomberg Business, CNBC News, Fox Business, etc., talking about supply chain risk and the importance of managing risk and being more proactive to audiences worldwide.
That's an amazing story, Bindia. So while you were running this business, what are some of the challenges that you've encountered and how did you overcome those?
You know, an entrepreneurship journey is difficult, like no matter who you are. I think we have a lot of entrepreneurs on this call, so you all know how hard it is to get started, how hard it is to come up with what is the first thing you do when you start a business, and then convincing people, right? You're convincing employees to give up their other job, lucrative jobs, and join you in this journey. You're convincing customers that your product is worthwhile, and then you're convincing investors to invest. So for me, I think those were the three challenges. I was a young-looking, first-time entrepreneur, brown woman, right? So I had a lot of things stacked against me. So I was not anyone's idea of a entrepreneur, that traditional software as a service entrepreneur. I did not have a software engineering background. So even on Sandhill, investing in me was challenging for people. So, just to give you an idea of the statistics though, like in a couple of years ago, I started looking at investing, how many women entrepreneurs get funding. And I saw that year, this was 2016, that year, for $1.5 billion that was raised by women entrepreneurs in the US, 64 billion went to men who are entrepreneurs. So you see how wide this disparity is. That's how hard the deck is stacked against us. So we have to be that much better. We have to be that much more, putting ourselves out there. And I think I had a lot of, fortunately, I'm in Silicon Valley. I had a lot of very strong advisors helping me throughout this, guiding me throughout this journey. And they all said, Bindia, be ready. You're going to have 30 no's before you get the first yes, right? And I was onto it. All right, I got it, 30 no's. I went through 40, 50, 60, 62 no's before I got my first investor. And unlike how you hear these stories, like we had 6 term sheets and we got to choose, I got 1 yes. I didn't get 6 term sheets. So there is a lot of challenging journeys that you have to go through. We shut down every 2 years. We were running out of cash, and then we had to get super creative, figure out how we were going to pay salaries and fund the business. And then, somehow we found a path through the madness. So my point is, if I had stopped at any point with the first no or the 10th no, I would not have made it. So my big message to everyone is that live for the yes. Live for the yes and wait for the yes, because there will be many, many more no's along the way, but you got to live for and wait for the yes.
That's awesome. And you've successfully exited your business now, right? So
Yeah.
you're probably looking at your next venture sometime soon. But during the course of running business, how did you maintain work-life balance?
Gosh, I actually did not do a very good job. I am a terrible cook. I do not like cooking. My whole point of getting in the kitchen is thinking how quickly can I get out of the kitchen. So we eat a lot of food. We basically support DoorDash as IPO. So I think we are very much a DoorDash family. But my husband is also an incredible partner in this journey. He's a much better parent than I am. And then we did have a nanny that we hired. I have my EA who keeps life and things together. So I think we have a community of people that keep things going. Even the moms in my kids' class knew that I was going to be the parent that forgot to pay this fee or sign on to that and do this or whatever. And they kept an eye out and they would text me and remind me. So my point to you guys is you have a community, take advantage of them, pitch your vision. You are the CEO of your own life. Like set your vision. What is it you want to accomplish? And then go get that help from whoever is able and willing to help you. So carpools with other moms, husbands, grandparents, families. I mean, we are not fortunate enough to have our family locally. Everyone is in India. So we did not have that option, but we went and found help from, the outside. And the community was incredible.
That's awesome. So next, I would like to ask questions to K. Ramesh. So Kay, that was an incredible journey that you've had growing up in India. So compared to a commercial sector that we just heard from Bindia, so federal government is a completely different playing field. So how did your journey start here?
Yeah, like Bindia, I also have the incredible opportunity of working with my husband and life partner. And
Yeah.
we are serial entrepreneurs. And during our very first venture in 1996 to 2000, we built this product for secure data transmission between servers. This was the time when .com and e-commerce was booming. And so one of the companies here in the local area, government contracting company, got interested in our product, invested in our product, and eventually bought us out to be part of their company. And they had a lot of Army and defense contracts. And eventually they got bought out by L3, who is now L3 Harris, one of the largest defense contractors here in the area. So that journey opened our eyes into the government market space. And the fact that we're living here in the DC metro, right next to the Capitol, it just made sense for us to, when we started our second venture, it made sense for us to serve the US government. And really, our goal was to provide exceptional service for better government. And that's how our journey started with the government.
That's awesome. And so during the course of your running the business, I know you've exited as well. What are some of the turning points and challenges in your career?
Yeah, so as you're running any business, there are different turning points, and you're constantly assessing the business as the business is growing. And then you are looking to see whether I have to stay on course or pivot, what I have to change in the business, right? One of the turning points that I think is worth sharing here with this community is that when we were a handful of employees trying to grow, I would like to use the analogy of fishing, where everyone in the company would go look for opportunities, and then we would bid, and we would catch that one fish, one opportunity, and then come cook it and clean it and eat it, and then go back to the lake for more. By that time, more fish has already gone by. So we were growing in bursts a little bit at a time. And so we were assessing about how can we do this differently so we can scale the business. We were looking at some of the large companies where they have teams of people who are going and looking for opportunities, and then teams of people who are executing on the opportunities that have already been won. So we said, why don't we start restructuring ourselves around that? So we created a sales team whose job is basically to go find opportunities, do the fishing. And then we had the delivery and operations team who is basically executing, organically growing, nurturing our current clients. So once we started restructuring that, that was a pivotal moment in our business where our business started growing, our pipeline started growing, and our business started humming, our business engine started humming, and we were able to parallelly grow and bring new opportunities and take care of our clients at the same time. So we were able to grow and scale the company from there on. So that was a very pivotal moment in how we structured the company for growth and consciously worked towards the growth trajectory. Yeah.
Awesome. And looking at your resume, you did your MBA from Smith School of Business. So how did your MBA help in running business? And do you recommend other women to consider pursuing MBA? I think that question goes to you, Bindya, as well, but I'll let Kay answer that question and I'll come back to you.
Sure, Madhavi. Yeah. So I did my bachelor's in electronics and communications in India. And then here I came and did my master's at George Mason University in information technology. And we'd already been running the business, and I felt that it would be good to have a formal education in business, so that would be another way to make the business run efficiently. So I went and did my MBA at Smith Business School for marketing and finance. But I would say that in any business, there is hard skills and soft skills, meaning I learned a lot of my soft skills learning from watching my grandfather, watching my uncles. How do you treat your customers? How do you work with your partners? How do you set up short-term, long-term goals for the business? How do you set up the vision for the business, right? And then the business schools teach you the hardcore skills where they're teaching you how to set up your profit and loss, how to set up your balance sheet, how do you set up your brand identity, how do you set up your marketing strategy, right? But when you put that soft and hard skills together, it becomes a powerful engine. And how you use the different pieces to grow your business, that is your secret sauce. So I really would recommend women who are considering MBA, whether you're taking a career path or thinking about starting your own company, that it's definitely an additional tool in your toolbox to consider. Yeah, it really helped me for sure.
Perfect. Thank you. And how
Madhavi,
about you,
did you
Bindya? You did your
sorry.
You did your MBA from MIT. So what are your thoughts on pursuing MBA?
Yeah, look, I think it's really important for everyone to really understand how money works in this world. Money drives everything. And so whether you're planning to be an entrepreneur or whether you're going to work in a hospital or any, like knowing how the people who manage the money think and what their care abouts are is incredibly valuable education for your personal growth and your professional success. So I'm a huge proponent of getting a business education, whether you do an MBA or not. Like, we're in this incredible age where you can watch YouTube videos for any topic imaginable or get certifications for anything while you're working. So business is not one of those things that you need to have a structured MBA education. You can learn about business in many different ways. My point is learn about money, learn about all kinds of business topics, because you could be in a job and knowing about how the people around you, your stakeholders, think, what are their incentives, motivations, and care about, will be an incredible boost to your personal, how you come across in these conversations. It will help you connect with your audience.
Yeah, Bindya and Madhavi, if I can add one more item, it's a process of continuous learning, I think, because you can go for a degree, but then 10 years down the road, go for a certification or keep up with what is happening in your market space, right? Go to those conferences, see where the industry is going. How can I position my business to be part of this up and coming technology or whatever it is, right? Just continuously learning, listening, being out there. I think it's very important to run your business or grow in your career. Back to you.
Awesome. That's perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Now we'll move on to Dr. K. Guntupalli. So Dr. K, you came to this country back in 1973 and sort of paved a path for all of us. So what was your experience in the United States when you were new to this country? So how did the society treat you being a woman?
Very soon after I came, I mean, as soon as you land and your green card gets stamped, I realized I'm not a citizen. I had 6 strikes against me. I'm not a citizen. I'm an international medical graduate. You have all the local graduates, and suddenly they call you IMG. Then I'm a woman. I'm a married woman, woman of color. And finally, I'm a very vertically challenged woman. I'm only 5 feet. So even when I go to give a speech or something, they have to get a stool for me to stand on. Otherwise, it will be like Akashwani speaking. After a few years, I realized that there are 3 other things that people don't talk about. One was a glass ceiling that many people talked about, that you can go beyond after you achieve certain status. And the second one is glass escalator. Suddenly, some people seem to be going very fast. You don't know why. You have the same qualification. And the third one is like a sticky floor, what I call sticky floor. I heard it somewhere. So you're not even allowed to take off. So those are the 3 things that I kind of realized a little bit later and recognize them, that they exist. And I'll give you 2 examples or 3 examples why I came to that conclusion. And it was kind of sad. I was listening to the political panel earlier, and they had, even today, after so many decades, they're having similar challenges. When I came here, my husband is also a physician, but he didn't take the exams to enter the system. So I had residency and he did not. He joined the workforce about a year and a half later. So to go to work to the hospital, I needed a ride. I needed a car. So we went to bank to apply for loan. They wouldn't give me because my husband wasn't employed. So for a year and a half, we struggled. I had to, take a ride from my colleagues to go to work every day. The second one was anytime I walked into a patient's room, they addressed me as a nurse. And, similarly, others have challenges in their field, because at that time, maybe less than 5% of doctors were women. Now, of course, in our medical school class, more than 50-60% are women. Third one is that when I was very involved in AAPI organization, and I was serving on committees, I did a great job and so on. And they would always say, all the men would come and say, hey, we need a woman president. We need a woman president. And but for every office I ran, treasurer, secretary, vice president, president, while some of the other men had no opposition, they were going, uncontested. For every position, I had somebody who was fighting me. In fact, they would tell me, why don't you stop this year? Next year we'll support you. And I had to fight. In fact, when I was going for the president of API, the person who was contesting had hired Zogby International, which was like a big, you would see on CNN in those days, like taking polls. They took a poll whether academician will understand the job because I was with the university, or a private practitioner. So it was so funny. Finally, I mean, we are all friends. I was the first woman president in the 13 years of API. Having said that, I would say that the same year, the American Medical Association elected their first woman president, Dr. Nancy Dickey, also from Texas, in their 150 years. So I can say that we have always been ahead of it. So I'm not complaining, I'm just saying what the challenges were. But even then, we are very fortunate. I was very fortunate to be given those opportunities.
It is sad that even to this day, some patients treat doctors as nurses. So it's still going on, unfortunately. But I'll move on to the next question. So you, reading at your bio, it is very, very interesting. And you wore and still wear many hats as a practicing physician, researcher, professor, and first woman president of API back in '98. And also you were a president of American College of Chest Physicians, and you won so many accolades. So what is your secret sauce to life?
I call this 10 rules of engagement with life. And your station in life may change from being a mother of young children to whatever station you are. But I think these are very good to build resilience and engage with life. Number one, I would say, is chart a roadmap for yourself. I always have a retreat like with myself once a year with no phone, nothing, close the door, don't have to go out of the house, but I'll just do a short term and a long term goal. Number two is time management, and you have to be very organized. So I have a daily list, I have a weekly list, I have a yearly list, and I sometimes go back to my retreat notes or slides. And the key, if you get overwhelmed with large tasks that you have expected of yourself, is to have a written down, attainable, biteable, short goals that you go back and actually say, did I do this week or not? Sometimes you won't do it, at least you know you have done. Number three, very important, is that to delegate anything others can do better than you. And time management, that's very, very important. I don't believe in doing menial tasks just to show that I can also, clean my house just as good as anybody else, or I love cooking, by the way, but I don't have to show that I can do this dessert just like my other friend. I'm not in competition. So anything somebody else can do better than me, I will delegate it. There are two exceptions, which I'll talk about later on. The fourth point is take permission to yourself, take time for yourself to self preserve and have personal development. So whatever works for you, when I get up, I do my meditation, I do my yoga every single day. That gets me ready for the day and keeps me kind of grounded. Have a hobby outside. That's my fifth point. It doesn't something not do with your work. It could be anything. There's no right answer for that. Very important thing, the sixth point I say, is that surround yourself with nurturing and positive people. All of us know some of the toxic people or Debbie Downers who are always saying no or pulling you down around you. Avoid those people like poison. These toxic people, you don't want them around you or your children. Number seven is find meaning in your work, meaningful work. Find meaning in whatever you do, because sometimes some other job may give you 50% more salary, some other job may give you more time. Somebody told me once that you can't have name, fame, and time and money, all of them. So you decide what you want. So just because something is better in certain aspect, if it doesn't mean anything to you, don't take that job. So what you do, you find joy in itself, then work won't be a big problem. Also, at least in our field or in other fields, they say you retool yourself every 10 years. Find a new technique or become expert in something that's becoming state of the art, because medicine changes all the time. It can be you change from clinical to administrative job, whatever it is, retool and refine your work. Number 8 is celebrate your achievements, especially women. If somebody says, hey, you're looking great today, or congratulations, you got that award, say, oh, that's nothing, it was very easy. This dish you made is very good. Oh, it was very easy, it's nothing. So find as women, it's very hard for us to take a moment, more than a fleeting moment, just to hold it in your heart. If somebody says, something nice to you, they mean it, just hold it for more than a fleeting moment. Then most important, which is actually premise for any of these, is hard work, honesty, and integrity. These are the three important key foundations for success. And number 10, I feel this is the most important, is to not only find a supportive husband, but also somebody who celebrates your success, who's proud of it. In my life, I have been very lucky besides my father, the person who is most happy and celebrates my success or anything has been my husband. If you have somebody who's not supportive, you just have to train them. That's all would be my my 10 rules.
That's awesome. And those are perfect, amazing lessons for all of us to, follow on a daily basis. But again, during the course of your life, what challenges did you face to raise a family while maintaining such a busy career?
I think ours was a two-career family. I'm sure many these days have two-career
Yeah.
families. So both of us would have night calls and all kinds of challenges, and like somebody mentioned, babysitter, all of those things. To me, there are two important challenges for anybody. Number one is the time, which is the worst challenge. Even Modi ji has only 24 hours. Then how come somebody achieves so much and somebody else is struggling just to just go to work and come home? So here I think this is where I mentioned you delegate work. I When I was younger and my kids were younger, I would rather moonlight at night and make enough money to pay somebody to clean my house, so I don't have to work, hard or scream at the kids because I'm doing something that I'm not enjoying. But somebody else can do it, and I will make myself afford if I can't afford. That's one thing. The only two tasks I would recommend you don't delegate in your life. Everything else can be delegated, believe me, is being a wife and being a mother. You don't want to delegate those two. I rather have somebody come and clean my house and spend the time with my kids when they were growing up than, clean the house, cook, and, the second most important challenge, other than time, for anybody, especially for women, is guilt. Guilt is the one that's killing all of us. I don't know if you agree. I see some nods there. We are always
Definitely.
guilty.
We all agree.
And it's for women. Men are not guilty at all, so there is no right answer. So I would say guilt will kill you from what you would have, you could have, you should have done in the past, or what you would, should, or could do in the future. So the regrets of the past and the uncertainties of the future are going to totally kill you. So I think that just do the best job. Remember, you've done very well for yourself. All of us have done well for ourselves. So our parents, our bringing may not be the perfect, but we did fine, and our parents did the best they could. So that's all you have to say. And you know that your children will say, "Oh, why didn't you do this?" or "You didn't do this for me." Just say, "Son or daughter, I did the best I can. We tried to be the best parents we can." So when they were younger, I had like two nannies sometimes, from 6 to 3 and 3 to 11, or I may have been ordering food like you. But now my kids are out of the house. So I love cooking. So I retooled myself into doing that very effectively and very enjoying it thoroughly. So it may be different stations. You just have to, find an answer. There's no right answer.
That's so correct, Dr. Guntupalli. So what's your message to the future women leaders? Sorry, I see
Madhvi,
someone else speaking.
Yeah, just one thing on that guilt piece. What Dr. K said was so powerful. So just one sentence that I've told people who work for me who had the guilt, the mom guilt, right, of not being able to do enough, is make sure your kids are proud of the mom you are and not the mom they wish they had. That's one really important thing. If you guys think about it that way, you are awesome, and make sure your kids know that and respect you for what choices you have made.
That's very well said, Bindia. That is awesome. Yeah, that's very well said. And going back to Dr. Guntupalli, so your message to the future women leaders?
There are two messages. First thing is your personal health and the health of the people who matter to you, that surround you, is very, very important. All of us are talented. We have degrees, we have drive, we have come here. So that's very important. Many of my classmates or people I know, that are much smarter than me have not even been able to work because of the challenges in their life. So when all the stars align, like you're healthy, your spouse is healthy, kids are healthy, they're doing okay in school, then if the second one is drive and opportunity, you have this at the background or stars are aligned. And second thing is you have drive and opportunity. Please do more than just going to work and checking your bank balance. I think as women, 50% of the workforce, we have to contribute something. So don't waste that um, ashirwad that given by Bhagavan. Just do something more. Doesn't have to be very big. You can be a PTA member or whatever it is. Do more than just going to work, coming back, if you can. Um, and finally, the other advice I would give, I read somewhere that don't worry about teaching your daughter how to fit into the glass slipper rather than teach her how to break the glass ceiling. So especially for daughters, please, like she said, you are awesome. Let them realize, and they know watching you, they know what sacrifices you made, you know and we really stand tall on their shoulders, our kids and husband. And I also read somewhere that the success behind every successful woman is a hungry man waiting for dinner. So there's a lot of sacrifices that other people have made.
That's awesome. So now I'll move to K. Ramesh. So what's your message to the future women leaders in the audience?
Yeah, I know we are celebrating Women's Day here. So I want to say to all the young girls watching here and women watching here that, dream big. If you have the grit and are willing to work hard, I know many of us touched on this topic, that you can achieve anything, that anything you want, And I personally feel everything happens twice, once in your mind and once in reality. So set your vision, see where you want to be, and just work small baby steps every day, right? And create your support system around you so that you have that help. You don't have to feel that guilt that we all talked about, and continue to keep moving forward. Sometimes we move forward one step, move back 3 steps. It's okay. We learn something from it, and we continue to keep moving forward, right? And then I also remember the 3 P's. One is purpose, passion, and perseverance. If you know your purpose of why you're doing it, that drives you. And then if your passion is, I think of Hanumanji like carrying the mountain every time I go to the temple and see Hanumanji, I'm like, because of the passion, the mountain doesn't seem heavy. So because if we have passion, what we carry as mothers, as entrepreneurs, as career women may not feel that heavy, right? And then perseverance, like, really staying to your goals and staying to what you want to be known for, what you want to achieve, whether it's family life, career life, work life, whatever it is, go for it, right? And with the passion. The combination of the 3 P's, I think, is very powerful to remember. And for all the young girls and women out there, get educated. That's your foundation for your success as much as you can, right? Build all those skills. And if the foundation is strong, you can build anything on top of it. So that's my few thoughts and advice for women and young girls who are watching.
That's awesome. And the same question goes to you, Bindia. What's your message?
There's a really good book I read by Rachel Hollis called Girls Stop Apologizing. I don't know if you guys have ever picked up this book, but Rachel Hollis is an amazing author. If you haven't and you want someone to pump you up and energize you and get you going, go get that book. Because really, we can be our own worst enemy. We can hold ourselves back. One of the examples, either it was in her book or Brown's book, was, if our child takes 10 steps and then falls, do we criticize them for falling, or do we celebrate the 10 steps? We celebrate the 10 steps. But in our life, we hold ourselves accountable for our failures far more than celebrating our own 10 steps. And so that's what I want. If you think about it that way, Don't be your own worst enemy. Don't let the no's in your life bring you down. I love what Dr. K said about don't let the haters bring you down. Surround yourself with the cheerleaders because you have them, and don't let the no's define you. Wait for the yes, and work for the yes. And that's my last thing.
That was amazing, Bindia. So I think this concludes Eminent Women Leaders. So with the time in mind, I think I tried to keep it short, and I hand it over to either Mr. Challagaru or Swapna, whoever wants to take over.
Yeah, I'm ready to take over before I hand over to Challagaru for his brief thanks to our distinguished guest today. Dr. Madhavi Batula, you were wonderful, and these conversations were so real. I think many of us could relate with some of the things that our eminent speakers said today about their own journeys and how, many a times we are our own, obstacle,
Enemies,
the way we've been groomed. But we should understand that we are also in a transitionary generation of evolution, and as women leaders, we have a bigger role to play in bridging the old and the new. So that was a very, very thought-provoking panel discussion. Thank you so much for the wonderful moderation. Jayant Garu, would you like to say something, sir, before I also reflect a little bit about ATA's involvement with bringing women leaders on board even in the past?
Yes, Swapna Garu, if you can go ahead and just recognize the women leaders of ATA for a minute or so, I will come back and recognize all the eminent panel speakers that we have.
ఈ రోజు ఇన్ఫాక్ట్ ఈ వేదికపై ఉన్న ముఖ్య అతిథులు ఎవరైతే వచ్చారో విశిష్ట అతిథులు వీళ్ళందరితో పాటు ఆట సంఘంలో విశేషంగా సేవలు అందించిన విమెన్ లీడర్స్ చాలా మంది ఉన్నారు. యశోదా రెడ్డి గారు ఫస్ట్ ఉమెన్ సెక్రటరీ ఆఫ్ ఆట, వి గివ్ అ బిగ్ రౌండ్ ఆఫ్ అప్లాస్ టు హర్. ఇందిరా పమ్మి గారు పాస్ట్ సెక్రటరీ గారు, అండ్ అలాగే ఉమాసి రెడ్డి గారు పాస్ట్ జాయింట్ ట్రెజరర్ గారు, ఉమా పి రెడ్డి గారు జాయింట్ సెక్రటరీగా ఉన్నారు. సుభాషిణి గారు, సుభాషిణి బైరెడ్డి గారు వాజ్ వన్ ఆఫ్ ద పాస్ట్ కన్వీనర్స్, అండ్ అలాగే భారతి పుల్లూరు గారు ట్రెజరర్ గా ఉన్నారు గతంలో. సౌమ్య కొండపల్లి గారు సెక్రటరీగా ఉన్నారు గతంలో. కమలా చిమిట గారు పాస్ట్ కాన్ఫరెన్స్ కోఆర్డినేటర్ గా ఉన్నారు. అండ్ డాక్టర్ సంధ్య గవ్వ గారు పాస్ట్ ప్రెసిడెంట్ అండ్ అడ్వైజర్, అండ్ మధు బొమ్మినేని గారు ఇమీడియట్ పాస్ట్ ప్రెసిడెంట్. అలాగే శారదా సింగిరెడ్డి గారు కరెంట్ జాయింట్ సెక్రటరీగా. షీఈ్ ఆల్సో ప్లేడ్ అ వెరీ క్రూషియల్ రోల్ ఇన్ షేపింగ్ దిస్ ఈవెంట్ టుడే. అలాగే బోర్డ్ ఆఫ్ ట్రస్టీస్ లో విజయ పులుసు గారు, గీతా కోమటిరెడ్డి గారు, శోభా చీపూర్ గారు, అలాగే స్వర్ణ చందూరి గారు, శ్యామారెడ్డి గారు, అలాగే రోహిణి బొక్క గారు, ఝాన్సీ రెడ్డి గారు, జానేత కంచర్ల గారు, అండ్ డాక్టర్ మెహర్ గారు, మెహర్ మేడవరం గారు ఆల్సో. వీళ్ళందరూ అందించిన అద్భుతమైన సేవలకు వారి నాయకత్వం, కృషి, ఇంకా వారి అనేక ఇనిషియేటివ్స్ అండ్ వారి సేవాభావం ఏదైతే ఉందో ఈ సంస్థ అభివృద్ధికి చాలా సహాయపడిందని చెప్పాలి. ఆటా వీరికి మనస్ఫూర్తిగా అభినందనలు తెలియజేస్తోంది. అలాగే ఆటా సంఘ మహిళా దినోత్సవ కార్యక్రమాల గురించి కూడా ఒక 2 మాటలు చెప్పుకోవాలి. అమెరికాలో దాదాపు 16 సంవత్సరాల క్రితమే ప్రారంభించిన తొలి తెలుగు సంస్థగా నిలిచింది. ప్రతి సంవత్సరం సుమారుగా 15 నగరాలలో స్థానిక మహిళలతో వివిధ కార్యక్రమాలను అంగరంగ వైభవంగా నిర్వహించి అన్ని రంగాలలో నిష్ణాతులైన మహిళలను ఆహ్వానించి సత్కరిస్తోంది. ఇవాళ కూడా దిస్ వర్చువల్ విమెన్స్ డే celebration is also just yet another extension of the wonderful activities that ATA has done in the past to celebrate Women's Day, achievements. And మాతృభూమి మన రాజధాని హైదరాబాద్ లో కూడా మహిళా దినోత్సవ వేడుకలను జరిపి అక్కడ కూడా ఉన్న ప్రతిభావంతుల్ని అలాగే చాలా టాలెంటెడ్ పీపుల్ ని గౌరవిస్తూ వస్తోంది ఆట. మహిళలకు సంబంధించిన అనేక పోటీలు, రంగోలీ, వంటల పోటీలు, ఇంకా వివిధ రకాల కార్యక్రమాలు అన్నిటినీ ఎప్పటికప్పుడు ఆర్గనైజ్ చేస్తూ ఆట ఈ కార్యక్రమాల్లో ముందుంటోంది అనడానికి మనందరం గర్వపడాలి. అలాగే ఇవాళ ఈ కార్యక్రమంలో కూడా వీ హ్యావ్ హ్యాడ్ సమ్ ఎక్సలెంట్ ప్యానలిస్ట్, అండ్ ఇట్ జస్ట్ మేక్స్ అస్ రీథింక్ ఇఫ్ వీ హ్యావ్ బీన్ lost in our journey, in our pursuit of what we want to actually do in our own lives. I think many of us watching as women in public, as working women, can relate with some of these. So that's all about ATA and the role of women in shaping up ATA over the past couple of decades. Over to you, Jayant Garu.
No, thank you, Swapna. You're doing an amazing job with the overall moderation. And eminent business leaders, you have done an amazing job. I was making notes while you were speaking, and I'm posting those notes in the WhatsApp groups. So great message, and thank you for your time. I have to say, Neeraja Lingam gar is in the background. She coordinated a lot of this stuff, but Dr. Madhavi Garu and Bindya and K. Ramesh, they're all good friends of mine, but great message that you have given us in Dr. Kalpana Gundapalli garu. Thank you, Andy. So I just want to say thank you, and let's keep in touch for more programs with ATA.
Thank you, Jayant Garu. I'd like to now, I'm short of words to actually conclude this with a vote of thanks, because I think we've had so many people participating, leading it from front, as well as, doing a lot of back-end support work, and also our distinguished guests. So since I'm short of words, I'd like to hand over this vote of thanks to Sharada Singireddy Garu. I request you to please thank all our guests, our organizers, and all the people that have done this wonderful event today.
Thank you, Swapna Garu. Thank you for coming and spending your day with us today. ముందుగా అందరికీ ఉగాది శుభాకాంక్షలు. మనిషి ఏమి సాధించినా ముందు జన్మ అంటూ ఉండాలి కదా. ఆ జన్మకే కారణమైంది స్త్రీ. ఈ సృష్టిలో అపర బ్రహ్మను మించిన శక్తి స్త్రీ అని చెప్పుకోవచ్చు మనము. సహనశీలి, అలాగే నిస్వార్థ శ్రమజీవి, మన ప్రతి అడుగు చేయి పట్టి నడిపించే మార్గదర్శి, జీవిత విలువల్ని మానవాళికి నేర్పే ఆది గురువు స్త్రీ. మన మానసిక శారీరక గాయాన్ని మాన్పే డాక్టర్ కూడా ఆవిడ. సంసారాన్ని ముందుండి పోరాడే సైనికురాలు అని చెప్పుకోవచ్చు. మన ఆకలి మంటల్ని ఆర్పే ఫైర్ ఫైటర్ అని కూడా చెప్పుకోవచ్చు. అలాగే మనల్ని కంటికి రెప్పలా కాపు కాసే పోలీస్ డ్యూటీ కూడా ఆమెదే అని చెప్పొచ్చు, మహిళది. ఈ సృష్టిని కాపాడడానికి విష్ణుమూర్తి దశ అవతారాలు ఎత్తారు, కానీ ఈ సృష్టిని నడిపించడానికి స్త్రీ అనంత అవతారాలు ఎత్తుతుంది. కాబట్టి స్త్రీ అనంత అవతారమూర్తి. మహిళను మించిన ఆదర్శం మహిళలోనే లేదు. అందుకే ఈ వేదికను ప్రతి ఏటా ఆట జరుపుతుంది. జరపవలసిన ఆవశ్యకత ఎంతో ఉంది. ఇదే క్రమంలో వివిధ రంగాలలో నిష్ణాతులైన మహిళలను ఈరోజు ఆట ఇన్వైటెడ్ అండ్ ఆర్గనైజ్ దిస్ వండర్ఫుల్ ప్రోగ్రామ్. టుడే వీ హ్యాడ్ వండర్ఫుల్ ఈవెంట్ విత్ డిస్టింగ్విష్డ్ గెస్ట్స్. ఈరోజు పాల్గొన్న అతిథులందరికీ ఆటా సంస్థ తరపున హృదయపూర్వక ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేస్తున్నాను. ఆట ఈ వేదిక కృషి వెనుక ఉన్నటువంటి ఆటా కార్యవర్గ బృందం ప్రెసిడెంట్ జయంత్ చెల్లా గారు ఈరోజు మన ఈ ప్యానెల్లో కూడా కూర్చొని ఉన్నారు, వేదిక తెరపైకి రాలేదు. మా ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఎలెక్ట్ సతీష్ రెడ్డి గారు, అలాగే ఆటా ఎగ్జిక్యూటివ్ కమిటీ, బోర్డ్ ఆఫ్ ట్రస్టీస్, ఆటా అడ్వైజరీ టీమ్, ఈవెంట్ ప్రమోషన్ కొరకు సహకరించిన మా ఆటా సోషల్ మీడియా టీంకి ప్రత్యేక ధన్యవాదాలు. అలాగే ఈవెంట్ రిలే బ్రాడ్కాస్ట్ చేసిన ఏబిఆర్ ప్రోగ్రామ్ మా సొంత ఆటా బోర్డ్ ఆఫ్ ట్రస్టీ అనిల్ బొద్దిరెడ్డి గారికి, అలాగే టెక్నీషియన్ నవీన్ గారికి, అలాగే ఈ ప్రోగ్రామ్ని రేడియోలో ఇస్తూ ఉంటారు మా ప్రోగ్రామ్స్ అన్ని. టిఎన్ఐ రేడియో విలాస్ జమ్ముల గారు, అలాగే ఐఏషియా న్యూస్, టిఎన్ఐ తెలుగు న్యూస్, ఇలాంటి ప్రింట్ మీడియాస్లో కూడా మా ప్రెస్ రిపోర్ట్స్ పంపిస్తూ ఉంటారు. వారందరికీ కృతజ్ఞతలు తెలియజేసుకుంటున్నాను. అలాగే టీవీ5, టీవీ9 మా ప్రసారాలని అంటే బ్రాడ్కాస్ట్ చేసేటువంటి మీడియా కూడా హృదయపూర్వక ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటున్నాను. ముఖ్యంగా ఈరోజు మన మోటివేషనల్ స్పీకర్స్ ఎంతో మంచి పాయింట్స్ చెప్పారు. అవి నేను కూడా ఒక మహిళగా ఆ పాయింట్స్ నాతో పాటు నేను తీసుకువెళ్తున్నాను. చాలా వండర్ఫుల్ ప్రోగ్రామ్. అందరికీ మరి ఒక్కసారి ధన్యవాదాలు తెలియజేసుకుంటున్నాను. అలాగే ఈ ప్రోగ్రాం చూస్తున్నటువంటి ప్రేక్షకులందరికీ ధన్యవాదాలు. వచ్చే ఆటా ప్రోగ్రామ్స్లో మళ్ళీ తిరిగి కలుద్దాం. సర్వేజన సుఖినో భవంతు. నమస్తే.
అమ్మై బ్రతుకిస్తావు, ఆలై జతకొస్తావు, కూతురి
మహిళా నీకు జోహారు, మహిళా నీకు సరిలేరు, మహిళా నీవు మహిళనా తిరగాడే దేవతవు. చరితలు మరువని వీర నారి నువ్వు, గగనము కెలిసిన జ్ఞాన భావుటవు, జగతిన గెలువని రంగమంటూ నీకేది లేదు వనిత. పలుకులు నడకలు నేర్పే పంతులువు, బ్రతుకను రథముకు సారథేగనువు, మగువని మనకు కరుండకుంటే ఈ సృష్టికేది భవిత. ఏటా జరిపి వేడుకలు ఆటా మనకు చెబుతోంది అంతర్జాతీయ మహిళా